chalayasi vikrama belam abhutavaman paranaka nirajana janapavam Keshavadrita Vamanarupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare. Ayalasa vikramane balam adbhutavaman paranmaka nirajanita janapavam avadrita vamanarupa jai jagadisha hare jai jagadisha hare jai jagadisha hare. Chalayasi vikramane balam adbhutavaman paranaka nirajanita janapavan keshavadrita vamanarupa jai jagadisha hare jai jagadisha hare jai jagadisha hare. Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Okay, Shema, Lord of the universe, O Lord, Hare, you have assumed the form of a wonderful dwarf Brahmana. All glories to you. With your massive steps you deceived King Bali, and with the Ganges water emanating from the nails of your lotus feet you deliver all living beings in this world. So, isn't it amazing that Vedic culture, they actually remember days, festival days, auspicious days that go back millions and millions of years. Quite amazing, isn't it? So most of the universe actually doesn't run by human time. Humans and beings are like, it's like we don't run our day by ant time. Hey, what time is it in ant time? We could care less, in the sense that it's so insignificant, right? So in the same way, what's going on in this universe, it goes on the time of the Devatas, Lord Brahma, things like that. So, and we have information of that because we have access to the Vedic literatures, but these literatures are written for, you can say, everyone in the universe, and even insignificant creatures like human beings, they can take advantage of it too if they want to, but so it's a different time clock. So Lord Brahma lives, one of his days is billions of years long. So within that time frame, many, many different avatars of Krishna come and go. So that's on his calendar. He remembers those days. That it's remembered by all the great sages and saintly persons, and we can take advantage of it. So let me get this madanga off of me. Thank you, Balaram, for jumping in there. Unknown waters. And singing so nicely. Lord Vamanadev will bless you. So, we sent Damodar Kumar upstairs to the library to get an 8th canto of the Bhagavatam. Something might have happened between the temple room and the library. Does anyone want to go see if he's okay? I got the songbooks. We lost them. So we're going to read. Actually, why don't we chant the verse while we're waiting? I've written down a few. What I've chosen 3 different lessons from this pastime of Lord Vamanadev. I guess to be honest, we would say there's unlimited lessons whenever the Lord does anything. But I chose 3 different ones that I'd like to go over, and reading some translations and just discussing a little bit. But the first verse we're going to discuss, actually text 21 and 24. Let's recite 21 together, okay? You can see it on the board, okay? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. So read the srimadbhagavatam. Are you ready? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yavato Vishaya Preshtas Trilokyam Aditendriyam Na Shaknuvanti Te Sarve Pratipurayitum Nripa. Did you find him? We need an 8th canto of the Bhagavatam. Do you want to get one? I need one. See, I didn't memorize all these verses. Well, both. Why not? Is there another one up there? Or, yeah, I definitely need the Bhagavatam on this one. The book. The actual book. Okay, here we go again. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yavato Vishaya Preshtas Trilokyam Ajitendriyam Na Shaknuvanti Te Sarve Pratipurayitam Nripa. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yavato Vishaya Preshtas Trilokyam Ajitendriyam Na Shaknudavanti Te Sarve Pratipurayitam Nripa Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Yavato Vishaya Preshtas Trilokyam Ajitendriyam Na Shaknuvanti Te Sarve Pratipurayitam Nripa. Like to chant? Sri Bhagavanu Vacha. Thank you. Yavato Vishaya Prestas Trilokyam Ajitendriya Na Shaknuvanti Te Sarve Pratipurayitam Nripa. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Yavato Vishaya Preshtas Trilokyam Ajitendriyam Na Shaknuvanti Te Sarve Pratipurayitam Nripa. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Yavanto Vishaya Preshtas Trilokyam Ajitendriyam Na Shaknuvanti Te Sarve Pratipurayitam Nripa. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Yavanto Vishaya Preshtas Trilokyam Ajitendriyam Na Shaknuvanti Te Sarve Pratipurayitam Nripa. Did you happen to see Damodar or Janardhan on this holy day of Vamanadev's appearance day? They come and hearing the glories of Vamanadev. Hare Krishna, Janardhan. You have to call him. Damodar just gone, not in the kitchen, or okay. So. In 3 steps he walked out of the temple room. One step he got to the door, second step he got to his car, third step he got to. So, as we said earlier, there are unlimited instructions, and I just wanted to pick 3. Now the first one, it says Sri Bhagavanu Vacha, and this is Vamanadev speaking to Bali Maharaj. And as we know the pastime, that the Lord appeared as this, sometimes it's brought up that it's really not a dwarf, it's midget. In English it'd be more of a midget than a dwarf. Because a midget means all your bodily proportions are proper, but you're small. Whereas a dwarf is kind of like squished. Sometimes you see dwarfs and, they were squished like that. So actually but anyways, he appeared like that, and that like a child, as a Brahmin boy, and his trick to regain or take back the heavenly planets that Bali Maharaj had usurped. Actually, it wasn't even a battle. It's described when the demons and Bali Maharaj showed up at the gates of heaven, the demigods were advised, just don't fight, don't bother. It's not the right time, and they just all left. Just kind of get keys to the city, and Bali Maharaj took over. And there's another history as far as why Bali Maharaj, the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, was fighting on the side and leading the demons. That's another story we'll let Ramapati tell when he gives class tomorrow. So, but he appeared, the plan was how to get back the kingdom from Bali Maharaj. That was one thing. And also to bless his devotee Bali Maharaj. That will come out as the second or third lesson. Just like is described the Govardhan Leela in one place, Krishna said the whole reason he did it was just to help his devotee Indra, who was in Maya. So you can say Vamanadev, one reason he appeared was to help his devotee Bali Maharaj, who was in some Maya, to get out of Maya. Krishna is very, very kind. But this is the first lesson I wanted to bring up, is that when he approached, he went into the assembly as a little Brahmin boy, as is the custom. The king says, "You're a Brahmin. Can I give you something, some charity?" And Vamana said, I'll take something. So, well, what do you want? I'll give you whatever you want. I'm practically the king of the heaven and the universe, practically. I'm just, whatever you want. And Vamanadev said, I just want 3 steps of land. Just 3 steps. And Bali Maharaj started criticizing him. He said, you're an unintelligent boy. You know, I could have given you a whole planet and this and that and unlimited wealth, and you'd be set for life. And all you want are 3 steps of land. So he said here, "O small boy, one who approaches me to beg something should not have to ask anything more anywhere. Therefore, if you wish, you may ask from me as much land as will suffice to maintain you according to your needs." In other words, if you have someone who could give you enough to take care of you for the rest of your life and future generations, why don't you do that? You know, they're saying here, you can get from me more than you can possibly need your whole life. Anyone could give you anywhere, anytime. So why don't you ask for it? So this is the answer. This is Vamanadev is saying why he only asked for 3 steps of land. The personality, this is today's translation, the personality of Godhead said, "My dear king, even the entirety of whatever there may be within the 3 worlds to satisfy one's senses cannot satisfy a person whose senses are uncontrolled." Text 22. "If I were not satisfied with 3 paces of land, then surely I would not be satisfied even with possessing one of the 7 islands consisting of 9 varshas. Even if I possessed one island, I would hope to get others." Text 23. "We have heard that although powerful kings like Maharaj Prithu and Maharaj Gaya achieve proprietorship over the 7 dvipas, they cannot achieve satisfaction or find the end of their ambitions." In text 24, "One should be satisfied in whatever he achieves by his previous destiny, for discontent can never bring happiness. A person who is not self-controlled will not be happy even with possessing the 3 worlds." Purport. If happiness is the ultimate goal of life, one must be satisfied with the position in which he is placed by providence. This instruction is also given by Prahlad Maharaj, and he's telling his demoniac classmates, "My dear friends, born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived with reference to the sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress. This philosophy is perfect in regard to obtaining happiness." Did you catch that philosophy in that verse? In other words, does anyone look for unhappiness? It just comes. Is anyone unhappy right now? Yeah. So it just came. And then maybe after Prasadam you'll be happy. It just comes, right? It just comes and goes. That's the full understanding, is that even though we don't look for distress, it shows up. In the same way, happiness just shows up. My goodness, look at this amazing breakfast that Mahabharat prepared. Right? Wow, this is unbelievable. So happy. Whatever, just like it just comes. It comes. Dharmasetu cut the class short. We're all happy. Whatever you want, right? Just whatever it is. It just comes. And so that's the understanding of life in this material world. We endeavor very, very hard for happiness and to avoid distress, but happiness comes or doesn't come, distress comes or doesn't come. It's coming by providence. So one should be satisfied by whatever providence is bringing, and with minimal endeavor. So just like we don't endeavor for distress, in the same way we shouldn't endeavor for happiness, so to speak. It says here, according to Brahminical culture, one should be content with whatever he obtains without special endeavor, and should cultivate spiritual consciousness, then he will be happy. The purpose of the Krishna conscious movement is to spread this understanding. People who do not have scientific spiritual knowledge mistakenly think that the members of the Krishna conscious movement are escapists trying to avoid material activities. In fact, however, we are engaged in real activities for obtaining the ultimate happiness in life. If one is not trained to satisfy the spiritual senses and continues in material sense gratification, he will never obtain happiness that is eternal and blissful. Srimadbhagavatam therefore recommends tapo divyam putakayena satvam shuddhyad yashmad brahmasokam tunantam. One must practice austerity so that his existential position will be purified and he will achieve unlimited blissful life. So this exchange, I always remember. In other words, Bhamana is saying is if you're not satisfied with, the necessities of life, you'll never be satisfied. You'll never be satisfied. There's no one ever who's existed in this material world. There's no one now in our present day, nor will there ever be one in the future who will disprove this law of material existence. In other words, if one has uncontrolled senses, one can never be happy. And it's unfortunate we live in a society where they encourage everyone to have uncontrolled senses, right? All the advertising, or the whatever it is, not just advertising, what's being taught in all the schools, from preschool all the way up to your doctorate degree and beyond, you're taught to satisfy your senses, and uncontrolled senses are just part of a wonderful life. Just go for it, right? Go for it, just do it, whatever. They have all kinds of sayings, Grab all the gusto you can. Is that before your time? Have you ever heard that one? That used to be a tagline for a beer on TV. I don't know which beer it was. Grab all the gusto you can. In other words, just go for it. That's life. Just go and get as much money, as much sense gratification you can. You'll be very, very happy. And even sometimes people propose that's a type of spirituality. Remember Rajneesh? And that was his philosophy. Just blow out your senses, then you become self-realized. Just have as much sense gratification as you possibly can, then you'll attain some kind of spiritual revelation. It didn't work for him, didn't work for any of his followers. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. The key to happiness is having controlled senses and a mind, and understanding this law of nature. So, how much does anyone need to be happy? Well, you really can't answer that question, because unless one has controlled mind and senses, then one can be happy in any situation. What's better? The Brahminical life, the Krishna conscious life. Then one can be happy. It says a Brahmin is satisfied just by drinking water. Whew. How's that, Ramapati? You ever experienced that? You're just happy just drinking water? That's tough, right? But that's it. No food. I just drink a little water. I'm happy. So, to the extent we have a control of our mind and senses, we're happy. Like that. We're just happy. And happy in Krishna consciousness. So that's a very important lesson. One of the first lessons from this pastime, Vamana Deva is showing that one should just be satisfied with the necessities of life, and you won't be satisfied. In fact, it's a cause of fall down. What's the verse in Nectar of Instruction? Atchahara prayascha prajalpaniyamagraha. Over endeavor for things in this material world will destroy our Krishna consciousness. And we won't be happy anyways. What is that Chanakya Pandit says? If you give up spiritual life for material happiness, or you give up the happiness and spiritual life for material happiness, you get neither. You get neither. So you give up your spiritual life for material life, you'll get neither. There's nothing in the material world we can hold on to anyways. So that's the first lesson. So, moving on here, chapter 22. So the pastime, as we know, Vamanadev said, I just want 3 steps of land. And of course, Sukracharya, his spiritual master, knew exactly what this meant. He knew this is Vishnu. And with 3 steps of land, he's going to take every single thing you have. He advised him not to. He said, you didn't promise, did you? He said, you can even break your promise if you want to. There's certain times you can break your promise. You can lie if you want to when it comes to business, when it comes to romance, different things like that, you can lie. The spiritual master told him that. So you didn't promise, did you? He said, yeah, I promised. He said, oh, no. And you see sometimes that, like in the wedding ceremony, different ceremonies, when you make a promise or a vow, you pour water to the hand, and that seals the promise. So I don't know if it's in the scriptures. Let me read that Shukacharya got inside the water pot. Is that just in the Hindu movies, or is it actually in here? He tried to block, got inside he shrunk down and got inside the water pot that Bali Maharaj was trying to pour into Vamanadev's hands. He tried to block the water. In the movies, what they did, someone took a straw and poked a little hole there, and it poked him in the eye. But he was trying to block the water from flowing so the promise wouldn't go through. At least that's how they portray it in the movies. But he didn't want it because if Bali Maharaj lost everything, he'd be out of a job. Everything would be gone. So the point is, Vamanadev did take those 3 steps of land, and 2 of them he covered the whole cosmic manifestation. So he said, listen, you told me I could have 3 steps of land. Now I have everything you own. Where do I put my 3rd step? And he said, you can put it on my head. Put it on my head. So the point is, Vamanadev took everything away. Took everything away from Bali Maharaj. So there's some verses here about that. Let me just read these. Text 9. So these are some realizations by Bali Maharaj. What is the use of the material body which automatically leaves its owner at the end of life? Did you know that? Your body's going to leave you. You can say the soul leaves the body, but also it's written here like the body leaves the soul. Goodbye. You have to go. And these separations there. And what is the use of all one's family members who are actually plunderers, taking away money that is useful for the service of the Lord in spiritual opulence? What is the use of a wife? She is only the source of increasing material conditions. And what is the use of family, home, country, and community? Attachment for them merely wastes the valuable energy of one's lifetime. My grandfather, the best of all men, who's that? Who's his grandfather? Prahlad Maharaj, who achieved unlimited knowledge and was worshipable for everyone, was afraid of the common men in this world. Being fully convinced of the substantiality afforded by the shelter of your lotus feet, he took shelter of your lotus feet against the will of his father and demoniac friends who were killed by your own self. Only by providence have I been forcibly brought under your lotus feet and deprived of all my opulence. Because of the illusion created by temporary opulence, people in general who live under material conditions, facing accidental death at every moment, do not understand that this life is temporary. Only by providence have I been saved from that condition. So yeah, he's getting some realization here after Vamanadev placed his foot on his head, and everything's gone. Just everything's gone. Everything's gone. So, continuing on here. This is Prahlad Maharaj shows up on the scene. Prahlad Maharaj said, my dear Lord, it is your Lordship who gave this Bali Maharaj the very great opulence of the post of heavenly king, and now today it is you who have taken it all away. So Krishna gives and he takes everything away. I think you have acted with equal beauty in both ways. So he's saying it's actually whether Krishna is giving us something or taking something away, his realization is either one is beautiful. It's wonderful. Krishna, we may think, oh no, if everything's taken away, that's bad. When I get things, that's good. But here, Prahlad Maharaj's realization is it's actually wonderful. Whatever Krishna sometimes giving, sometimes he's taking, it's equally wonderful for the Lord. Because his exalted position as King of Heaven was putting him in the darkness of ignorance, you have done him a very merciful favor by taking away all his opulence. Material opulence is so bewildering that it makes even a learned, self-controlled man forget to search for the goal of self-realization. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, the Lord of the universe, can see everything by his will. Therefore I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So here's We read about Bali Maharaj's realization. Here's Prahlad Maharaj confirming the exact same thing. Some bits of wisdom, some verses of wisdom about how merciful Krishna is when he wants to take things away. Now here's Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma's there. And he has a few things to say. So that's starting with text 21. Lord Brahma said, O well-wisher and master of all living entities, O worshipable deity of all the demigods, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, now this man has been sufficiently punished, for you have taken everything. Now you can release him. He does not deserve to be punished more. So actually he was bound up, wasn't he? He was bound up by a Vasuki, ropes like that, like bound up like a prisoner, like that. Bali Maharaj has already offered everything to your lordship. Without hesitation, he has offered his land, the planets, and whatever else he earned by his pious activities, including his own body. Because he didn't resist. And it says that actually he knew what was going on. He knew what was going on. In other words, he had a reawakening of his Krishna consciousness even as that promise was made. He could see it coming too. He could see it coming, and of course Shukacharya told him it was coming, and that was fine. He was fine, whatever Krishna wants to do. So he's actually a great devotee. He just had a slip up for a little while there. So, then here we go. Vamanadeva is now speaking about this, about his taking everything away from Bali Maharaj, starting with text 24. Lord Vamanadeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, My dear Brahma, because of material opulence, a foolish person becomes dull-witted and mad. Thus he has no respect for anyone within the three worlds and defies even my authority. To such a person I show special favor by first taking away all his possessions. While rotating in the cycle of birth and death again and again in the different species because of his own fruitive activities, the dependent living entity by good fortune may happen to become a human being. This human birth is very rarely obtained. If a human being is born in an aristocratic family or a higher status of life, if he performs wonderful activities, if he is youthful, if he has personal beauty, a good education and good wealth, and if he is nonetheless not proud of his opulences, it is to be understood that he is especially favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's a nice verse. So it's not that because you have these things, it's guaranteed there's problems. It says if one is especially favored by the Lord, even if one has these things, an aristocratic birth and youthful and personal beauty, good education, good wealth, if you're not proud of it, that means you're Krishna conscious. You're very Krishna conscious. You're seeing it all as Krishna's mercy and kindness. Although aristocratic birth and other such opulences are impediments to advancement in devotional service because they are causes of false prestige and pride, these opulences never disturb a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in and of themselves, there's nothing wrong with these things. Is there anything wrong with $1 million? How about 10 million? How about 100 million? How about 1 billion million? No, nothing wrong with it. Is there anything wrong with beauty, personal beauty? Is there anything wrong with a good education? There's nothing wrong with these things in and of themselves. But it says here, the problem becomes when they arouse in our heart false prestige and pride. In other words, we think they're mine. And because I have this, I'm very, very powerful. I'm very, very important. I'm Ishwaraham Ham Bhogi, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. We start thinking, I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer, I'm perfect, powerful, and happy. That's what happens. So one has to be very careful. You know, and there's that, even the other day I think it was told. It's a famous story Prabhupada said. There was that yogi, I don't know if it was Vivekananda, who was it? They say, or some yogi, that if you bring him a tray full of money, his hand goes away like, oh, I can't touch these things, very bad, I can't, Prabhupada said, if you bring it to me, I'll just take it like this. Use it all in Krishna's service. In other words, a pure devotee doesn't become, his heart is not filled with these things, so they don't come up. They're not activated. You know, Cheru once gave a lecture, and he got the point that, in prison, if you look at it, prisoners are actually quite model citizens. They get up at a certain time every day. They go to bed. They all go to lunch at a certain time. They all have, dinner, breakfast. They go and, do whatever they do. They're just wonderful people. Right? But as soon as you let them out of prison, what happens? Because they're very nice in prison because they're forced to, they have to follow a certain schedule. They have no opportunity for doing anything like that. But once you let them out, immediately their heart, oh, now I'm free, I can do whatever I want. So, but when they're under control, so it's an interesting point. So one has to be very careful because inside the heart, if it's not pure, as soon as a situation arises, then all of a sudden all these bad qualities come out. So one has to be very, very careful. And the previous verse was that if one is not at all disturbed in the presence of these things, it means he has special mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 28. Bali Maharaj has become the most famous among the demons and non-believers, for in spite of being bereft of all material opulences, he is fixed in his devotional service. Although bereft of his riches, fallen from his original position, defeated and arrested by his enemies, rebuked and deserted by his relatives and friends, although suffering the pain of being bound, and although rebuked and cursed by his spiritual master, Bali Maharaj, being fixed in his vow, did not give up his truthfulness. It was certainly with pretension that I spoke about religious principles, but he did not give up religious principles, for he is true to his word. The Lord continued, because of his great tolerance, I have given him a place not attainable even by the demigods. He will become king of the heavenly planets during the period of the Manu known as Savarni. Until Bali Maharaj achieves the position of the king of heaven, he shall live in the planet Sutala, which was made by Vishvakarma according to my order. Because it is especially protected by me, it is free from mental and bodily miseries, fatigue, dizziness, defeat, and all other disturbances. Bali Maharaj, you may now go live there peacefully. So this is the blessing he received from Vamanadev. Now, he's one of the Mahajans, right? And Bali Maharaj, he's one of the great authorities in the universe on devotional service. And of the different processes of devotional service, he is mentioned with which one? He attained perfection by which one? Is it Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanavedam? He surrendered everything. So I'm not going to have time to go on to the third lesson because it's already 8:35. But let me just read this one last verse. This is the verse I read before. Just think of Bali Maharaj. Although bereft of all riches, fallen from his original position, defeated and arrested by his enemies, rebuked and deserted by his relatives and friends, although suffering the pain of being bound, and although rebuked and cursed by his spiritual master, Bali Maharaj, being fixed in his vow, did not give up his truthfulness. It was certainly the pretension that I spoke about religious principles, but he did not give up religious principles, for he is true to his word. So he just surrendered everything to the Lord, and he was completely undisturbed. So that's Bali Maharaj, a great, great soul. So, because of the time, we'll have to just stay with 2 of the 3 lessons, okay? Any questions or comments on any of these points that were brought up? Does anyone remember what the first point was about? Yeah. The 3 steps of land. If one's not satisfied with if one has uncontrolled mind and senses, one will never be happy. Just won't be happy. Right? If you experience any unhappiness, you see someone else unhappy, especially if they're perpetually in that state of mind, just examine their life. You'll see they have an uncontrolled mind and senses. It's just not controlled. Like that. So. Mm-hmm. You can pretend you have a microphone. Yeah. Or you can take this one.
Yeah, you're talking about this, the 3 different lessons, and you said you covered 2. And would this also it's kind of like this idea of kind of being like, of course, we're not into this in and of itself, but this idea of kind of being grateful for what you've been given, because if you're too greedy or too just not grateful, then 3 steps of land is definitely not going to be enough, and what somebody cooked is not going to be good enough, and the facility is not going to be good enough, and nothing's going to be good enough, because this idea of just kind of being ungrateful. Is that kind of the similar? Okay. But also, the question I had was that just to see what you... Yeah.
About this, that he was visiting someone, an Indian family. He visits all the time. And the wife, the kids are kind of grown up and so on, and the wife was never very happy, always unhappy. She said, Maharaj, can I talk to you about me being unhappy? I said, okay. And, this and that, and my husband, and he works too much, and my kids aren't married, and my sons, and he told her, he said, what you should do is just get out a piece of paper and write down all the things you're thankful for in life. Just write all that down. Let's talk about it tomorrow. And she did that. And the meeting the next day, she was actually a changed person. When she realized she had so many things to be thankful for, and her mind just kind of spins off into outer space, all this problem, that problem. When she actually realized all the wonderful things she had in her life, she became peaceful. So that's a good point you're making. I'd be very thankful.
So the other question I had was that, so we have Prabhupada, and we have the way he, delivered Krishna consciousness, and then his disciples, and I'm not talking about disciples just like, deviating from the philosophy or changing things or anything like that. I'm talking about authentic, serious devotees. But sometimes, they may present things, or they do present things, you could say, that are different from how Prabhupada would present them, and they sometimes even may have different emphasis. But specifically, like, Prabhupada, at least, Prabhupada has a lot of lectures, so it's hard to say, but Prabhupada, for the most part, he was quite conservative, in relation to, like, the gopis and Krishna and this type of, even on such days like Radhastami and so on, he was really conservative. And I'm not talking about devotees like really getting far off and into that, but even just to a certain degree, sometimes devotees go into that. Mm-hmm. And, how are we supposed to kind of, you could say, remain respectful and appreciative of those devotees, knowing that, Prabhupada was super conservative about that and generally didn't do that, So.
Well, I would just answer this in a general respect, that one angle of that is that if you see and hear a devotee saying things which it just doesn't seem to be, like the mood may be wrong, or like you say, the amount of information given or something, one should actually discuss it with other elder devotees to see if they caught it also, Because you may be right, and that devotee needs to be, someone should speak to him about it, because it is improper. I always give that example. In fact, just Guru Ram Maharaj heard a lecture. He was talking about it too when we had the dinner program in here in the 80s, the Shivananda Sain. We used to have the dinner program. Everyone like 50, 60 people here, and it was just a dinner, and then they'd be invited if they wanted to stay for Bhagavad Gita class and so on. But always someone who was the maitre d' of the evening would come and say a few things about the philosophy. The host. Sometimes it was Jivananda who was the cook. You might have heard of Jivananda. And the Shivananda Sain, a wonderful devotee, but quite an interesting devotee. he was up here, and he was his first time as the host, you know. And it was, I think it was Balaram's appearance day or something like that. And Maharaj isn't back there. There we go. Saying it was Balaram's appearance day, and Balaram's Krishna's brother, and Krishna has sisters, and Krishna has girlfriends. These are just people of a dinner program off the street, you know. And then and Maharaj is in the back going like this, like, stop, stop. He says, and sometimes he kills demons. You thought that Maharaj wanted to say kills demons, you know, cuts off their heads. And Maharaj just went like, oh no, and just walked out the door. So too much information. It's all true, but it's too much for that audience. So the point is, if you feel something like that, one should actually speak to other devotees and see, is this, am I just overreacting, or is this actually, maybe it's too much? These kinds of things, as we learned from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, he only discussed these kind of things amongst the most intimate devotees. For most people, it's philosophy and kirtan. So sometimes it may be an inappropriate amount of information given to a certain audience, and there's no harm in inquiring from others. And if, especially like you're saying, it may be a devotee elder to you, whatever, then someone else should talk to them. Because we have to be very careful. One has to be very, very sensitive as a preacher that we are delivering the right amount of information to the audience. Otherwise, they'll commit offenses. They'll start thinking, oh, Krishna is like that, an ordinary person, or this, it's not appropriate. So yeah, it's a good point you're making. I hope that answers your question. And it can happen. It does happen. It has happened, and it will happen. Devotees will just start saying things they really shouldn't say. Whether it's a one-on-one or it's a temple room full of guests or whatever, one has to be very, very careful what they say. Like that, so. Anything else? It's probably breakfast is on time this morning, right? Okay, so we can end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hope you have a wonderful break fast from your Ekadasi.